On Ryan's birthday, his first love came back from overseas. They threw a grand celebration behind my back. That was when I found out they were about to get engaged. And I, his actual girlfriend, was dragged out and made the punchline of the night. His friends laughed as they said, "It was just a stupid game back then. You lost, so you confessed. Who would have thought it would drag on this long?" "You're really getting engaged?" She didn't throw a fit, cry, threaten to hang herself, or run away from home to force you into marrying her? Ryan blew out a smoke ring, his tone calm and indifferent. "April's as obedient as a dog. She won't push for marriage. She's not going anywhere." In that moment, it finally hit me. I was nothing more than a backup player in this whole game. Saying it didn't hurt would be a lie. My hands trembled as I held the tray. My eyes burned as I stared straight at the man sitting at the center of attention. The laughter in the private room came in waves, over and over again. And the joke was me, the girlfriend carrying a tray like a waitress. Chris, Ryan's best friend since childhood, leaned on his hand and asked casually, "Ben, you really never thought about giving her a real title?" "It was just for fun," Ben replied, blowing out another smoke ring. "Who would take it seriously? If she did, then she clearly doesn't know her place. That's her bad luck. The only person I've ever loved is Grace. She's the one I truly care about. I just want to marry her." He was drunk, and his voice, tinged with intoxication, laid his feelings bare without a shred of hesitation. I clenched the tray tightly, my chest filled with a sour ache, like being pricked over and over by needles. Grace, glowing under everyone's gaze, let out a soft, confident laugh. Just like 8 years ago, when Ryan had pursued her so publicly and intensely, she was radiant, dazzling. Ben pulled her into his arms and kissed her hard on the cheek, staking his claim. The room roared with excitement. Grace quickly turned and pecked his lips, but he grabbed her by the back of her neck and kissed her deeper, more aggressively, locking her in place. That kind of affection? I had never once experienced it. What I did have, constantly, was their ridicule and indifference. Every time he brought me to events, I'd just sit quietly in the corner, occasionally catching a few contemptuous glances. That day, I couldn't finish my shift. I got a coworker to cover me and went straight to the manager to hand in my resignation. He looked surprised, but didn't ask why. He just told me this month's pay would be transferred to my account. Thankfully, they weren't going to dock my salary. After crunching the numbers, I realized I finally had enough to pay back the money I owed Ryan. After 8 years, I was finally waking up from this dream. It wasn't until I stepped outside that I realized I was bleeding. Then I suddenly remembered the day we first got together. It had snowed then too. At the mixer, everyone had been watching as Ben walked toward me, holding a huge bouquet of roses. His tone was sincere. "I like you. Will you be my girlfriend?" I panicked. My face burned. I wanted to say no, but the words stuck in my throat. I couldn't speak. So he shoved the roses into my arms and sat beside me. He quickly figured out that every time he called me girlfriend, my ears would turn red. So he leaned into it, calling me that over and over. "Girlfriend, what do you want to eat? Girlfriend, what do you want to drink? Girlfriend, what do you like?" By the time we left, it was snowing heavily. He wrapped his scarf around my neck with such care. Those deep, affectionate eyes of his were filled with tenderness. "Girlfriend, I can't let you catch a cold." Turns out, our entire relationship had started as a joke, just a game he lost. I was the last to know. And now, all I felt was cold, deep into my bones. He kept calling me girlfriend because he didn't even remember my name. What he didn't know was that this was the 11th year I had loved him. That night, when Ryan came home, he was holding a giant bouquet of roses and a necklace box. He looked so happy, and he put the necklace around my neck himself. I smoothed down my hair. When I saw it in the jewelry store today, I knew right away it was perfect for you, baby, Ryan said. Unlike the joy I used to feel, this time my thoughts ran elsewhere. Did he go to the jewelry store because of his engagement to Grace? Did he need gold for that too? When he bought this, did he suddenly remember the fool beside him and feel a hint of guilt? I suddenly remembered the first time he gave me a necklace. It cost $200,000. When I heard the price, I jumped up and quickly took it off, placing it back in his palm. I can't accept this, it's too expensive. but Ben pressed me down into the chair and put it back around my neck with a bright smile. My April deserves the very best in the world. No matter how expensive it is, you're worth it. I turned my hand to hold his and looked up, staring into his eyes. My reflection was mirrored in his dark pupils, full of an unusual tenderness. Ben, is there something you want to tell me? He stiffened slightly, and for a moment I could sense his unease, but then he leaned down and gently kissed my forehead. Of course, I love you the most. The next second, his phone rang loudly. Ben hesitated, frowned, and silenced the call. It rang again right away. He hung up once more annoyed this time. The third time, he faltered. Go ahead and answer it, I said, fingering the necklace. What if it's important? He glanced at me quickly, then picked up. He walked away fast, but not fast enough. I still heard the familiar voice of a woman on the other end. When he came back, his brows were tightly furrowed, but his expression toward me was still the same open tenderness. My parents want to send me on a business trip, he said. Where to? I asked, my voice calm, though my chest throbbed with a deep, stabbing pain. Tokyo, he answered. Everyone thought I met Ryan for the first time in college. That wasn't true. I first saw him back in 10th grade. At that time I wore thick black-rimmed glasses and had heavy bangs that covered my forehead. My face was full of acne and I blended into the crowd. My mom sold vegetables. Sometimes her clothes carried the smell of fish and I'd end up with it too. Teenage boys loved to mock that sort of thing. They'd call me names, ugly girl, eel girl. Even though I started checking my clothes obsessively every day, terrified of any lingering scent, it didn't stop the teasing. One day, Ben snapped. Day after day, all you guys do is bark like dogs. If you can't speak like humans, shut your mouths. You're real quick to mock others, but who the hell here is better than anyone else? Say one more word, and you're going against me. If you've got a problem, fight me. Those casual, offhand words lit up my world. No one dared to bully me after that. I made it through high school peacefully, quietly watching Ben and Grace's passionate 3-year-long relationship unfold. In our final year, I took off my glasses, cut my bangs, and my acne cleared up. I mustered all my courage, held up my phone, and asked Ben for a photo together. He hesitated, glancing toward the distance. That's when I noticed Grace. She was standing beneath a tree in a white dress, eyes red from crying. I wanted to back out of the photo and remind him, your girlfriend's crying. But he suddenly threw his arm over my shoulder, smiled, and snapped the picture. That was the first time I became a tool for their petty fight. And the first time I realized they'd broken up. When I told my dad, he was furious. His face turned red as he asked me why I'd applied to a college all the way in Jingxi. Before I filled out my application, I'd promised him I'd stay local. But now, even my niece wanted to go to Jingxi. He pulled out our photo and showed me the little red heart he'd drawn on the back. This is our fault. Your mom and I spoiled you too much. Kids like him, from rich families, they'll never truly love someone like you. My mom tried to make me apologize, to bow my head and admit I was wrong, but I wiped away my tears and refused. That day, I was hit for the first time, and I swore I'd keep going. Even if it meant crashing headfirst into a wall, I wouldn't turn back. Now that I had truly hit rock bottom, all I felt was a deep aching pain, body and soul. Sure, we had sweet moments too. Plenty, in fact. But now when I think about them, they all feel like scenes from a play. He used to wear the ugly scarf I gave him, the one I knitted awkwardly when I had just learned how. He'd wear it proudly around his neck and boast, "My girlfriend made this." Jealous? He'd post the lumpy strawberry cake I baked, the entire table of mismatched dishes I cooked, and caption them on his feed. "My girl cooked, I eat well." He'd wear a childish black elastic hair tie on his wrist, just like mine because it matched. We'd take long walks through campus, fingers laced together. When someone asked for his WeChat, he'd wrap his arm around me tight and declare his claim. His life was marked all over with traces of me. Ben had money. He lacked nothing. All I had to offer was my whole heart, every bit of love I could possibly give, without holding anything back. In sophomore year, my dad was diagnosed with cancer. A kind, gentle old man. His health deteriorated rapidly. Before we knew it, he was confined to a hospital bed. My mom and I were desperate. We were just regular people, like the rest of our relatives. There was no way we could come up with the enormous medical bills. I borrowed from everyone I could. We were already buried in debt. Still, we were far from enough. That night, it was pouring rain. Soaked to the bone, I found Ben in a pool hall. I stammered, trying to explain why I came. Some guy nearby let out a sharp whistle and sneered, "Here for money, huh? You know, people don't lend out of pity." "How do we know you're not just faking it to squeeze cash out of Ben? Took you no time to show your true colors." I panicked, tears falling freely. I pulled out my nearly dead phone, trying to find the diagnosis report. Then I realized what they were suggesting. "How about you kneel for us? 1 kneel, 1 grand. How much you get depends on you. If you don't dare, doesn't that mean the whole illness thing is fake? In the face of death, money becomes just paper." Sure, April was from a poor family, but that didn't mean she was stupid. To them, I had gotten close to Ryan for one reason: money. To them, I was just a nobody, not worthy of standing beside someone like Ben who came from wealth. Eyes red, I almost knelt. But Ben grabbed me and pulled me up. His face was cold, expression dark with anger. He shoved a card into my hand and draped his coat over my shoulders. "If that's not enough, tell me. I'll have someone drive you back." At the time, I thought he truly didn't care about the class divide between us. At the time, I really believed he loved me. That night, after Ben finished his shower, he saw me sitting with my head down, wiping my tears. He immediately panicked and rushed over, gently brushing my cheeks with his thumb. "Why are you crying? Who upset you? Are you feeling sick? I'll take you to the hospital right now." His voice trembled with worry, like he was terrified I might disappear at any second. In that moment, he was all anxious care, as if the love we shared these past 8 years had never faded, as if we were still deeply in love. I didn't understand how he could still act so deeply in love, while his heart clearly still held Grace. How could he say things like, "April's like an obedient dog who won't leave me," with no guilt at all? Was it just because he knew I loved him too much to walk away? My whole body was cold, breath caught in my throat. I gripped the collar of his pajama shirt tightly. Ben immediately rubbed my back, trying to help me breathe. Seeing me cry so hard I couldn't even speak, he finally realized something was wrong. He asked carefully, "Is it because I'm going on this trip? Are you upset?" I didn't answer. Panicking, he whipped out his phone. "I'll call and cancel right now. Baby, don't cry. I won't go, I'll stay." I pressed down on his hand, hugged him, and sobbed. "It's not that. It's not because you're going away on a trip. It's because all these years, no matter what I did, I couldn't warm your heart. I've been waiting for you to turn back, to sincerely love me. I've been waiting for you to like me the way you used to like Grace. But it's been 8 years, and I'm still just the backup in this game." That night, I cried in his arms, pouring out everything I'd held in. Ben, flustered and overwhelmed, held me tighter. That sharp ache in his chest told him something was slipping from his grasp. The next morning, I still saw him off for his trip. At the front door, he hugged me and gave me a gentle kiss. "When I get back, I'll bring you a gift. Just send me a message on WeChat if there's something you want, okay? And no crying while I'm away. Don't let your eyes get all puffy. If you miss me, just call me." His sweet, doting words didn't reach me. I only nodded vaguely, distracted, and watched him get into the car. "Ben, there is no after for us. I won't be waiting for you to come back." On the 3rd day after Ben left, I cleared everything of mine out of his place. I watched our photos fall into the fire. The flames danced warmly on my face, but my chest ached unbearably. Those old love letters I once begged him to write, yellowed with age, turned to ash. Suddenly, I thought of Grace again. The woman who once lived at the very center of Ben's heart. The brilliant daughter of the prestigious Quinn family, top of her class, fluent in 5 languages. She could dance, she could play the piano. Just standing there, she could draw every eye in the room. Ben had written her countless love letters, all overflowing with affection. Even when his love was met with cold indifference, he still followed her, day after day, rain or shine, never turning back. As I stood up from the study desk, I accidentally knocked over one of Ben's treasured wooden boxes, something he never allowed me to touch. If I did, he'd get angry. The scattered photos stabbed at my heart. I bent down with shaking hands and picked them up one by one. Every single photo was of the 2 of them, Ben and Grace. Dates were written carefully on the back of each. Ben looked so genuinely happy in them. A thick stack of boarding passes lay nearby, wordless records of their long-distance yearning. No wonder he went abroad every year without fail. Even when we had plans during those days, he never hesitated to cancel them. I used to tease him, saying some beauty overseas must have stolen his heart. Now, I knew it wasn't a joke. It was real. Must have been tough for him, rushing back after seeing Grace just to meet me as if nothing happened. Then I remembered. I'd once used a burner account to add Grace on social media. Almost without thinking, I curled up on the sofa and opened her latest post. The location was tagged in New York. In the photo, she and Ben were walking hand in hand. The caption, "With him." I knew it was Ben, because the wristwatch on the guy's arm was the one I gave him, a plain $2,000 watch that meant the world to me. I opened Ben's Moments feed and scrolled endlessly. Almost everything about me had disappeared, probably set to visible to me only. He never mentioned Grace, but every word was about her. That morning I spent hours torturing myself, scrolling through their posts, crying until I could barely breathe. Then in the afternoon, I got an invitation from his mom. At the cafe, she arrived dressed in elegant, expensive clothes. After giving me a long, deliberate once-over, she took a sip of her coffee. "How much would it take for you to leave my son?" Straight to the point. "You two are from different worlds," she continued. "You won't be happy together." I lowered my eyes to the bank card she pushed toward me. If this had happened years ago, I would have felt humiliated. I would have screamed that love could conquer all. But I wasn't 17 anymore. I was 27. I let out a soft laugh and pushed the card back. Luckily, before I came, I'd gathered the courage I needed. I pulled out my own card from my bag and slid it across the table. "Ma'am, this is the money Ben lent me when my dad was sick. I've included the interest. Please help me return it to him. I know he's getting engaged. Please wish him a happy marriage for me." Ben's mom looked at me in silence, then sighed deeply and took the card. That night, as if we were still connected by some invisible thread, Ben called me. He went on, chatting about the little frustrations of work, complaining about his unreasonable boss. I stood by the window, listening quietly as snow fell outside. On impulse, I asked, "Is the snow heavy in New York?" Ben didn't catch on. He laughed. "Yeah, it's coming down pretty hard." "What about Jingxi?" I asked, my heart beating slower, heavier. My voice was steady now, calm. I let out a soft laugh. "Aren't you supposed to be in Tokyo?" There was a long silence on the other end. Only the sound of heavy breathing remained. Ben suddenly sounded anxious. "No, April, listen to me." "Let's break up," I said, cutting him off. "Ben," I added quietly, "I don't love you anymore." I hung up before he could say another word. Right after, video call requests started popping up one after another, flooding my screen. My WeChat inbox exploded with messages. "What's with the attitude? What did I do wrong this time? Pick up. Don't block me," I replied with a single sentence. "Let's end things peacefully." Then I deleted and blocked him without hesitation. It was only by doing that, by being the one to end it, that I felt like I had finally won something in this game I was always meant to lose. That night I had a rare, gentle dream. In it, I got everything I ever wanted. I walked down the aisle in a pure white wedding dress, holding onto my father's arm, heading toward Ben. He stood at the altar in a black tuxedo, dark and striking. My heartbeat pounded like drums in my chest as I told myself I was finally marrying the boy I'd dreamed of at 16. My dad's eyes were red as he placed my hand into Ben's. "Take good care of her," he said. "I will," Ben promised. "I'll never let her down in this lifetime." When I woke up, my pillow was soaked with tears. The next day, I was getting ready to go downstairs and grab some breakfast. But as soon as I opened the door, I saw a familiar figure. Ben, sitting outside my apartment, smoking. The ground around him was littered with cigarette butts. He never smoked unless he was deeply troubled. Shouldn't he be happy? He finally shook me off. He could marry the woman he really loved. When he saw me open the door, he turned and shoved a warm breakfast into my arms, pushing me back inside with overwhelming force. "Why'd you break up with me?" he asked, his eyes bloodshot, rings dark beneath them. He looked utterly exhausted. I looked him in the eyes. "Because I don't love you anymore." For the first time, Ben seemed stunned. The sweet, obedient girl he used to know was now standing before him like a wildcat, baring her claws. He'd waited at the airport all night, even paid extra to buy someone else's ticket so he could rush back. Now, he didn't want to hear any of it. Suddenly, Ben grabbed my chin, forced me still, and bit my lip, hard. Only when it started bleeding did he finally let go. He licked the blood off the corner of his mouth and scoffed. "Don't love me?" he said, and shoved me down onto the sofa. His hand slid under my shirt. I instinctively tried to push him away, but he wouldn't budge. I kicked and thrashed, but he held firm. "You say you don't love me, but your body's saying something else," he sneered. He was humiliating me, his cold fingers sliding across my skin. "Get off me, Ben," I shouted, tears streaming down my face, stinging with pain and shame. That moment jolted him back. He sprang off me as if burned. "I'm sorry, April, I don't love you anymore," I said again, slowly and clearly. "You don't get to treat me like this just because I used to love you." It sounded ridiculous, even to my own ears. Weak, pathetic. Because of course he could treat me this way. He never loved me. For 11 years I had chased after him, loved him in silence, handed him my heart wrapped in thorns. No matter how much it hurt, I convinced myself it was worth it. This loud, messy, one-sided love had always been mine alone. Ben took a step back. His voice softened. "Baby, don't do this to me. It's not fair." He reached for a cigarette, but then dropped it, letting it fall to the floor. Truthfully, I never expected that. When I finally let go and walked away, he'd come running after me without hesitation. Seeing me remain still, not reacting, he let out a breath of laughter, laced with bitterness. He crushed the cigarette under his foot. "April, why is it that when you want to be with me, we're together, but the moment you don't, you just break up? You're the one getting engaged, aren't you?" I stared directly at him. "Because I was obedient, because I didn't push for marriage. Because I loved you so much, I lost myself." "So what? That means I'll never leave you? That I'm supposed to be okay being your second choice? To throw away my dignity and be your mistress?" Ben froze. His hand hovered in midair, as if he wanted to touch me, but pulled back at the last second. My voice came out dry and hoarse. "How did you know?" I asked. "Which loudmouth couldn't keep their mouth shut in front of you?" Ben, flustered and angry, lunged forward to grab my hand. "Listen to me." I stood where I was, willing to hear his explanation. But all he could do was stammer. Nothing came out that made any real sense, because the truth was, the engagement was real. "I've always known," I said with a bitter smile. "I've always known. That's why it's always hurt so much." Ben pressed his lips together, then grabbed my arm. "I don't have to marry her," he said. "We're just like friends now." "Oh, so friends kiss now?" I snapped. "So you won't marry her, but you'll marry me, the loyal little dog? Then what, still keep your first love warm on the side?" I didn't even know when it happened, when Ben had become so utterly rotten. He stared at me intensely, but my eyes had shifted to his ring finger. He was wearing a simple band, engraved with the initials JPU. I had begged him so many times to get matching rings. He always said, "It's not the right time." Now, seeing me staring at it, he quickly slipped it off. "This, my mom gave it to me. I just wore it out of habit." "It's not what you think. I wasn't trying to. I was drunk. I said dumb things I didn't mean. I never saw you that way. I just thought you were too good, too obedient. I only feel friendly toward Grace now." He started rambling. "Our families have been close for generations. We dated once. That's all. That's why they wanted the engagement. Just wait for me a little longer, okay? I'll take care of everything. I want to marry you." He always said that, torn between Grace and me. But if it was just a friendship with her, then from the start he could have broken off the engagement for me. He could have introduced me to his mother. But he didn't. Because he was weak and selfish. "Does loving me make you feel ashamed?" I asked. For once, Ben looked down, avoiding my gaze. Just then, Grace called. "Ben, why aren't you at the pool hall?" Her voice came through clearly. "I just made some soup for you. I thought you were out again." "What are you two doing?" Ben's voice immediately turned nervous. "What's wrong?" He'd never cared what I was doing, even when I got hurt. At most, I'd get a casual, "Go to the hospital. There are a few guys bothering me. Ben, where are you?" Grace's voice trembled like she was about to cry. Without thinking, Ben let go of my hand. While comforting Grace on the phone, he was already texting his friends for help. Just before leaving, he turned back. "Don't be mad. I'll explain everything when I get back. My hands were shaking. You're really going? Without turning around, he said, I'll be back as soon as I handle it. But we didn't have a next time anymore. Once again, Ben had left me behind for Grace. As the new year approached, I took some time off and went home early. After my mom finished lighting incense for my dad, she looked over while arranging offerings. You broke up, didn't you? These past few days I kept dreaming about your dad. He kept saying our sweet little Dandan was getting bullied. I mumbled a faint response while stuffing potato chips into my mouth. She came over and held my hand, sighing. Marriage? Liking someone and being a good match aren't the same thing. She told me she hadn't married my dad because she loved him, but because my grandpa had said they were a good fit. But in all those years, my dad had loved her and only her. In everything, big or small, he gave in to her. So if it's not right, my mom said gently, let it go. Our Dandan is a good girl. You deserve love. I hugged her tightly, hiding my tears in her shoulder. With a little laugh, I teased, well then, if I can't find the right person, I won't marry anyone. I'll just stay here with you forever. You're all I've got, she said softly. After lying around at home for days, I finally saw things clearly. I'm not Cinderella. One party won't bring me a prince. If Grace could summon him with the curl of her finger, and if my 11 years of love couldn't make him turn around, if not even once in all that time he could say he truly loved me, then I didn't want him anymore. Even trash has more worth than love like that. Reality isn't as beautiful as fairy tales. From now on, everything I want in life, I'll have to fight for it myself. No matter how Ben tried to reach out to me after that, I never responded. Because the truth is, a rich boy falling in love with Cinderella has never been anything more than a fantasy. He ended up completely drunk at a bar, a mess. With no other option, Chris called me. April, he's been downing drinks like water. He's completely out of it. You know he already has stomach issues, right? He's just being stubborn. He still cares about you. He just won't say it. Can you come get him? No, I replied firmly. A proper ex should act like they're dead. No contact, no interference. Chris paused for a second. Is your phone on speaker? No, I said. Let me put it on now. Ben, I'm talking to you. Your body is your own. Even if you drink yourself to death, it has nothing to do with me. Stop bothering me. I don't love you anymore, and I have no interest in getting back together. I hung up cleanly. There was a long silence in the private room. Then Ben's eyes reddened with frustration. April loved me so much, she's bound to come crawling back in a few days. This time, Chris didn't respond. Before the new year, there was a rare high school reunion. Ben received a warm invitation and, out of politeness, agreed to go. When he sat down, he noticed one seat was still empty. The class rep joked, well, look who finally showed up, our Mr. Popular himself. You and April never used to come to these. Ben tried to recall what I looked like in high school, but all he could see was a blur. Wait, was she even in our class? He asked uncertainly. Of course, someone replied. Didn't you once stand up for her back then? Someone else chimed in. Back in the day, all April cared about was school and Ben. Honestly, I thought she had a crush on you. Guess I was right since you two ended up together. Ben's mind went completely blank. I had been 16 that year. I hadn't loved him for 8 years. It had been 11 years of my youth. On New Year's Day, fireworks burst through the night sky. As I looked out the window, I unexpectedly spotted a familiar figure downstairs. Ben was standing there, holding a massive bouquet of roses. When he saw me, he waved excitedly. He was wearing the same scarf I had knit for him all those years ago. When I came downstairs, he rushed toward me and pulled me into a tight hug. I finally found you, he said, voice full of grievance. He held me tighter and tighter, like he was afraid I'd disappear again. Only when I started to struggle for breath did he finally let go. Without even looking at me, he fumbled in his coat pocket and pulled out a red velvet box. Inside was a diamond the size of a pigeon egg. I'm not ashamed to love you, he stammered. I truly want to marry you. It was a sentence I had waited 11 years to hear. Tears welled up in my eyes. Some emotions, buried for too long, eventually burst out. I laughed at myself and said, Do you see it now? See what? He asked. The gap between us. You live in a villa, drive a luxury car. I work 9 to 5, taking the subway to save money. For you, Buying a diamond ring is nothing. For me, saving up just to get you a birthday gift that suits you takes forever. We're not the same. We don't belong in the same world. We don't match. I don't need you to buy me anything, he argued quickly. I just want you by my side. The day I found out my dad was terminally ill, my mom broke down crying, clutching me. But I couldn't cry. I had to be the backbone of the family. I was just a sophomore then. My hair fell out in clumps from the stress. I couldn't sleep. All I wanted was to hug you and cry. But you had no idea. You were off racing cars with your friends, getting drunk in some bar. I was freezing, shaking all over. Everything was a blur. I had nowhere left to turn, Ben. I searched for you the whole day in the pouring rain. You didn't reply to my messages. Your friends ran me in circles. I walked until my feet bled, covered in blisters. And in the end, they told me where you were, at the pool hall, but only if I knelt and begged. You caught me when I nearly fell. Back then, I thought maybe, just maybe, you'd loved me, even if only briefly. But then, as I reached into your coat pocket, my hand brushed your phone. I picked it up, intending to return it, but at the door, I overheard everything. All those things you'd said, buried memories you let slip in my absence. Saying it all out loud now, it lifts a little weight from my chest. My voice choked, then broke into sobs. I coughed through my tears. In my mind, I saw Ben's face again, unbothered, careless as he blew out a smoke ring, voice cold and cruel. April? She's an old clingy girl, pathetic. I pretended I hadn't heard it, but deep down I swore to myself I would pay him back every cent. Still, we kept dating for 8 years. I thought I finally had a place in his heart. But eyes don't lie. Every time news of Grace came up, he'd leave me behind without hesitation. My mom used to ask me, subtly but consistently, is it because we borrowed money from him? Do his family hate us for being poor? She wondered if our background made them look down on me, if our status was too shameful to mention. For 3 months we didn't speak. He was traveling overseas with Grace, and I was working myself to the bone, 4 part-time jobs a day, sleeping only 4 hours a night, just to pay him back. I knew he didn't need the money. The spare change slipping through his fingers could support me for years. But to me, that money was a nightmare. I had dreams where he screamed at me, called me a gold digger. I kept comforting myself, kept reassuring my parents. I've liked him for a long time, he's good to me, he's never treated me badly. April. Ben's eyes were so red they looked raw, like the snowstorm outside had blinded him. It took him a moment to realize what he had just heard. Bookmark. Go back. His body started shaking. He collapsed in despair. No, please don't say any more. I never meant to. I didn't know you were there. I saw his hand shaking as he held the velvet ring box. I gently closed the lid. That thing I'd once dreamed about, wanted more than anything, meant nothing to me now. You said you wanted to marry me. I waited so long for those words. All these years I was waiting for you to turn around and see me. Waiting for you to truly love me. But I forgot, this was all just a game to you, to all of you. I was never one of the real players, just a substitute piece. Ben, I said, I don't need you. I never did. Let's just end this cleanly. He stood frozen, pale as paper, unable to speak. He clung to my hand, unwilling to let go, tears falling one by one into my palm. He had so much to say, yet all of it caught in his throat. Not a single word came out. I hesitated for a second. Then slowly, finger by finger, I pried his hand off mine, pushed him away, and turned to go upstairs. Ben stayed rooted where he was, overwhelmed and broken. He crouched down, covered his face, and sobbed uncontrollably. On the morning of New Year's Day, I had just crawled out from under the blankets when I saw him, sitting on the couch, wrapped in a thick quilt, drinking hot water. His lips were pale, his face ashen, his body trembling uncontrollably. My mom pulled me into the kitchen and whispered, I ran into him this morning while taking out the trash. He was downstairs all night, swaying like he might collapse. I was scared he'd pass out in front of the building, so I brought him inside. After all, he did help save your father's life once. When Ben saw me, he stood up awkwardly, clearly unsure of what to do. His eyes turned red instantly. Happy New Year, April, he said, his voice soft and unsure. I nodded perfunctorily. Happy New Year. If you're feeling better, please leave. I don't want to see you again. You're really this heartless? He asked, desperate, clutching my wrist tightly. When I didn't respond, he continued in a hoarse voice, "I don't love Grace anymore." His voice was tight with tension. "I'm already in love with you," he said. But I never wanted to be anyone's backup. I'd hesitated so many times before, looked up hoping someone would finally see me, but no one ever did. The truth was, I didn't love him anymore. When I didn't respond, he asked cautiously, almost like he couldn't bear to hear the answer. Ben had spent the whole night downstairs, thinking, waiting. If it were anyone else, maybe he would have broken down completely. But in his heart, he still believed I was the kind of girl with pride, someone who had simply bowed her head and bent her back for love. He was wrong. I didn't love him. My answer was firm. This life is only so long, and I'd already fallen once. I wasn't going to throw myself in again just to end up shattered. I had already lost my dignity. What right did I have to talk about love? That day, Ben left in disappointment. After that, I never saw him again. When the new year ended, I was transferred to the overseas branch for training. My days were busy, fulfilling. Occasionally I would catch glimpses of Ben from afar. He always kept his distance, never approached. At 30, my mother had grown older. She missed me, and always hoped I'd come home more often. So I applied to be transferred back. That way, I could work and take care of her at the same time. She kept hoping I'd find someone, gently encouraging me to go on blind dates. I brushed her off, saying my career wasn't stable yet. Eventually, I was promoted to general manager. And during a business negotiation with the Jan Group, I saw Ben again. He wasn't the reckless young man from my 20s anymore. He'd grown up, matured. The Jiang family was thriving. Whenever we ran into each other, Ben would bring up the past, but the past had nothing to do with me anymore. "I've let it go," I told him. He nodded. "Okay." At 35, I met my husband. He treated me well, surprises every day, eyes full of nothing but me. The night before our wedding, I visited my father's grave alone. I poured his favorite wine. "Dad," I said softly, "I'm getting married tomorrow, not to the boy I once loved when I was young. I met him at work. He and his family are kind to Mom and me. I just wanted to have a little chat with you. Next time, I'll bring him here to meet you." The wind rustled the leaves in the trees above me, like he was answering me back. On my wedding day, I spotted Ben in the crowd. He was crying so hard he could barely breathe. A bit dazed, a bit lost. But my life had already moved on. The one I loved was separated from me by mountains and seas. And mountains and seas cannot be crossed. From Ben's perspective, extra. It was true. I first got together with April because of a silly college party game. Everyone at the mixer had been all over me, except for her. She sat quietly in the corner, like she didn't care at all. That's what made her stand out. That's why I picked her. I didn't expect that just hearing the word girlfriend would make her ears turn red. It was cute. I couldn't help but tease her. Later, I learned she was brilliant. Not just a scholarship winner every year, but student council president too. She had a light in her that drew people in. I was always a selfish, careless guy, but I still stayed with her for 8 years. I never realized she had become part of my life until it was too late. I always thought I had time, that my world shouldn't be limited to just one person. Then she said she didn't love me anymore. I smoked all night at the airport, rushed back to see her. When I saw her again, rage exploded inside me. I grabbed her, pulled at her clothes. She cried, eyes swollen red and puffy. She looked terrible, but my heart softened. I shouldn't have treated her that way. She told me I had no right to hurt her just because she once loved me. But then Grace called, saying someone was harassing her. I was worried, so I left, telling April I'd explain everything when I got back. She asked me to stay. I didn't turn around, but I forgot. Disappointment doesn't come all at once. It builds up, piece by piece. By then, there really was no more us. After another failed conversation, I walked away bitterly. I told myself, April loves me so much she'll come back eventually. But he never lowered his pride again. At another class reunion, someone brought up the ugly fish-selling girl, and only then did it truly hit me. We had known each other far longer than I remembered. Someone said April had liked me even back then. That in her eyes, besides school, there was only me. I did the math, 11 years of youth, and all of it she had given to me. Later, when my mom handed me back the bank card, I couldn't shake the guilt in my chest. I regretted everything. On New Year's Eve, I went to find her. I told her I truly wanted to marry her, I had even bought a large diamond ring, ready to propose. But she looked at me and said softly, "This isn't what I want anymore." That was when I realized her eyes no longer held any love for me. She told me all about the past, about everything she'd been through. And as I listened, every word felt like another shard of ice embedding in my skin. I couldn't even speak through the tears. I stood outside her place all night, and in the morning, her mother found me and let me in. I begged her, "Is there really no chance left for us?" She said, "There isn't." As I was leaving, I overheard her speaking to her mom. "Loving someone for too long only adds up to disappointment," she said. "I'm human too. I have dignity. I can't give that up just to marry him." On New Year's Day, I sat in my car outside her building, watching the light in her window flicker from dark to bright and back to dark again. After she broke up with me, I drifted through life aimlessly, until I finally understood how I felt. I ended my engagement with Grace. We were too alike, two people with strong tempers, never truly compatible. Later, she found someone else, someone from her world, someone who treated her well. She was happy, deeply loved. For a long time after that, I regretted taking April's love for granted. When we got back together, I had been greedy, trying to hold on to her, while still chasing the rush of a first love. As I got older, the people around me began getting married. They encouraged me to start over, to open my heart again. But all I could think was, how did she survive those 11 years? Round and round we went. And somehow, I ended up the last person in our circle still alone. Later, she went abroad. I often adjusted my schedule just to fly out and see her, watch from afar without ever disturbing her. I didn't dare. I was the one who hurt her. All I could do now was look at her from a distance. At 30, April was promoted. She rose from department head to general manager. No one dared mock her as the ugly fish girl anymore. They addressed her with respect. President Chen. In negotiations, she was sharp and decisive, earning her name and place. One day we crossed paths at a business meeting. She stood in front of me in a sleek brown coat, poised and confident, and my heart fell into chaos. I invited her to lunch. She didn't decline. But during our conversation, she was calm, distant, completely free of the past. She didn't avoid talking about what had happened between us. She just said, "What's missed is missed. The past can't be chased." I stared at her, stunned. It hit me all at once. April had become even more beautiful. At 35, she got married. It had taken her 8 years to love me, and another 8 to heal. The only one still trapped in the past was me. I asked someone to send her a wedding gift, a red envelope with 10 million yuan. I didn't sign it. I also found her mother and slipped her a card with 50 million. Tears filled my eyes. "Auntie, she gave me 19 years of her youth. It shouldn't be wasted. Just think of me as her older brother, giving her away today. This is her dowry." Her mother kept trying to return it, but I ran. I didn't have the guts to stay. Selfishly, I thought, I'd met her parents. I'd given her 60 million. Maybe in some twisted way, I had married her too. She stood on that stage in a stunning wedding gown, veiled in white, radiant and dazzling. I finally understood what people meant online when they said loving someone is like tending to a flower. April had bloomed, more beautiful than she'd ever been. I watched her, tears spilling down my face. When they exchanged rings and kissed, I sat in the audience thinking, if only those things hadn't happened, maybe April would have married me. Maybe by now we'd have a pair of adorable kids running around calling me daddy. I wanted so badly to run on stage, stop the wedding, beg her to love me again. No matter how late it was, but I had already lost the girl who once loved me with all her heart. I didn't even dare watch her walk over with her husband to toast the guests. I fled in shame. Tears streamed down my face. I had truly, completely lost April Chen, the woman who once loved me to her very core. In this life, I lost the one person who loved me most.